We're live.
Thank you. If at the top of the hour, Councillor Gillespie is not on yet, Ms. Sage, you do the roll call, we will note that, but we will also note when she does come on. And Cynthia, you'll watch for her, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was able to get in touch with her. She's just having a few technical difficulties.
Okay,
She is trying to join though.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday, September 13th. Council agenda convenes at 6 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the Committee of the Whole. It is due to COVID-19 and the recommendations by Waterloo Region Public Health to exercise social distancing and public gathering thresholds that Township Council meetings are currently being held electronically. Members of the public may watch or participate in this open meeting electronically using any of the following methods. 1, watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. 2, members of the public interested in speaking to any item were able to submit the request in writing to the Clerk's Division. A link and telephone number has been provided to those who registered before the registration deadline. And finally, members of the public interested in commenting on a particular item were invited to submit written comments to the Clerk's Division that were provided to the Mayor and the Council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. I'd now like to call the meeting to order and ask for the approval of the agenda, please.
So we have moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Osner. If we could have a different mover.
Yes, can I assign Councillor Osner to our Councillor Rollman, please? Will you agree, Councillor Rollman? I think he's frozen. So I think Councillor McCreary, can you, oh, there's Ms. Gillespie, we're okay. So go ahead, start again, please.
So moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Osner, that Council adopt the September 13th, 2021 Committee of the Whole agenda as presented with the following addendums. 1, add item 6.5, report number RAC-23-2021, Rogers Hometown Hockey Event. And 2, add closed session item 10.1, report.
Okay, Ms. Sage.
Number CAO-25-2021, section 239, subsection 2, subsection D. Councillor Rollman, how do you vote on that?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie? Councillor Gillespie?
You're muted.
Yes, sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
having technical difficulties.
And Mayor Foxton?
Sounds like several people are tonight.
Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you very much. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we are going to move into Committee of the Whole, please.
Moved by Councillor Osner, seconded by Councillor Rollman, that Council adjourn to sit as Committee of the Whole. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
Carries.
thank you. So, does anyone like to speak on any of the finance functions? And if so, please indicate which items you would like to speak on. We're at finance functions, item 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. I believe we have a registered speaker is Jarrett Bellamy. So we'll have Jarrett speak first, if that's all right. So Cynthia, you're going to bring Jarrett in.
He's on his way.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Get my share screen set up here. Can we see that now?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks again for having me come speak to the topic of the skate park project surplus. I'll jump right into it. So the last time I was here speaking of this was July 12th. And at that point we had a $4,400 surplus. And since then we collected a remaining $10,000 donation, bumping the surplus to $14,000, $415. So reviewing back to the comments from the July 12th meeting, it was Councillor Rolleman who said that, if it was $15,000, that would be a nice nest egg to start off a project. $4,000, not so much. Easier to use the $4,000 for trees. Councillor Oshner also made a comment echoing that essentially. So a lot has changed with gaining an extra $10,000, tripling the surplus. So I believe we need to reevaluate how it is being handled. And again, I'm going to be asking that the residual funds be set aside for the proposed pump track project capital costs, which falls in line with the MOU that the Skate Park Committee and the township had in place. I'm going to touch on some budget variances now that I'm sort of to dig through some of the details as they come together. The first one at the top there is part of our MOU that I just mentioned was a point that the township's contribution would be $212,000. So looking at the breakdown between the tax levy and the development charges, that totals $210 with a variance of $2,000. And then looking more at our sponsors and donors, the variance there being the $1,000 contributions, where the committee and our fundraising attempts and contacting individuals and whatnot, we had expected 7 of these $1,000 donations. We've received 5 to this point. 1 was canceled. So there's 1 outstanding, which I've been in contact with, and it sounds like it should happen, or we're trying to clarify details, whether it has gone through or not, or whatever it is. Anyways, so that would be an extra $1,000 from the total donations and sponsorships of $208,850. So if we add those all together, our surplus could potentially be over $17,000. So these variances that I'm bringing to light now is the reason why I've been trying to get a detailed breakdown for months to try and stay on top of all of this, make sure everything's coming in of what we worked so hard to secure. I also wanted to clarify some of the landscaping, the comments that were made at the last meeting. The comments were that there was never landscaping included in the project budget, or and that how we lost the in-kind donation ended up costing us more. But there had always been a certain level of landscaping as part of the requirements. This was a breakdown design estimate, one that I was able to find in my records dating from November 2018, where in the site works and remediation, there's line items for topsoil, sod, or topsoil and seed. So those have always been there. And then to the details of what happened with our landscaping contractor, I had to go back through my notes to figure out that we originally had a local contractor secured for $25,000 worth of in-kind materials. I believe it was like a COVID miscommunication of how to handle it all at the time. So it was taken as a withdrawal. And during that time, New Line found a new landscaping contractor. Then the original contractor came back on. New Line needed documents signed to secure said contractor. They took too long, missed the deadline. So then New Line secured the other contractor that they had confirmed. And it was roughly, I believe it was $15,000 from my notes of what the new contractor cost. So the original contractor, as part of their outline of what they were willing to donate, had mentioned shrubs, trees, and boulders and other items on top of what was required up to their total budget. So that is what was lost in that whole miscommunication that way. I did want to raise one point. If we are proceeding with trees, with the goal of providing shade, I would maybe want to look into shade structures versus trees, which would pose a potential safety issue for leaves and twigs and stuff falling onto the skate park surface, into the bowl. They would definitely collect in the bowl, and that would require more regular sweeping and cleaning just to manage that. So something to consider. And then I wanted to touch mostly today on this financial report that was presented to council today. I wanted to note that the proposals presented in this were not discussed with the skate park committee at all. So the first point was allocating $3,000 to a security camera system. Did some digging, found out that this came back in the 2021 capital budget with a $37,000 project cost, of which 35 was approved by council in the 2021 budget, and the remaining was to be funded from the facilities reserve. So that makes me think that this funding is already accounted for. It's not a recreation capital project as per our MOU agreement for use of funds, and not necessarily tied to the skate park project. So our skate park committee's stance is that this should not be funded by the skate park surplus. Also noted was the $7,000 to be directed towards the Cowan Park basketball multi-use court. I also found that $124,000 is allocated in the 2022 budget as part of the 10-year capital forecast. Another reason to assume that this funding is all accounted for. Also not part of the skate park project and should not be funded by the skate park surplus.
Jeremy, your 5 minutes are up. So
Oh,
I'll give you
great.
another second or two to wind down, please.
All right, that's that. And I'm still waiting to see a official report go to council to secure or protect the proposed pump track area in Schmidt Park that was raised at previous council meetings. That was a resolution point, and that's it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Can you close your presentation, please?
Stop share.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, back again to items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. Councillor Osner.
Sorry about that. My hand was going up and down there. So just a couple quick questions for this. The original MOU with the skate park, was there any mention in the MOU that any additional funds, if any funds were left over, that it would be secured for the choice of what the skate park committee wants to put that money towards?
CO
Or
McNeely?
is our MOU state up to a certain dollar amount that we secured this funding for the skate park? That's question number one. I do have a couple other.
Okay, CO McNeely for the first one.
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Ostner. If there was a surplus at the end of the completion of the project, the MOU indicated that the funds be directed to the township. Township was set up a reserve account to be used for future recreation purposes.
I missed the end part of what you said, CO McNeely. Used for what?
For future recreation purposes.
Thank you.
Okay, so then,
Councillor, two more.
so then it wasn't designated that it would go towards a project specifically requested by the skate park committee.
No, it was directed that it would be a decision of township council because it would go into the township recreation reserve accounts. Council would provide whatever direction or division of those funds would be.
Okay, so then if that's the case, this security system for $3,000, is it a security system that is going to be focused on the skate park?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Ostner, the intent is to have 2 remote cameras mounted at 2 locations at the skate park, solar fed, videotaping activity in and adjacent to the skate park.
Okay, thanks. And then the last part of this would be, if that's the case, it appears like whether council wants to consider the fact that trees should be planted or shade structures such as Jared had mentioned. I have no problem doing the security cameras, especially in light of what's been going around Facebook with the graffiti that's been going up. And also, I think some sort of shade structure is a good idea. However, I'm going to suggest maybe that we leave it at those 2 projects and that the remaining amount of $7,000, I believe, should remain in the recreational fund for future projects such as the pump track. Because I believe the shade structure and the video cameras our necessities for the skate park.
Councillor Austin, you said leave the residual in the recreation. So the recommendation here is for the basketball multi-purpose courts at the complex. Would you include that in that or not?
No,
Pardon me,
no,
no? I
no,
wanted to clarify.
no. I think that given the whole situation with the skate park, with the recreation facilities, etc., I think that if we put the shade structures up, however we do the shade structures, this is the first I've heard about or even thought about it, to be honest with you, until Jared said about if we plant trees too close to a skate park, you're going to get leaves and residual things. I don't want kids slipping on all that stuff, especially if the leaves get wet or they start to rot, etc. So that might be something that we can consider looking at. The video cameras, I think, are surveillance cameras, I think, are a must. However, I think that maybe we can leave it at that and put the 7,000 that was allotted for a basketball court back into the fund, and possibly use it for the use of the pump track in the future.
Okay, Councillor Roman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to add to what Councillor Austin was saying. I think that the one thing we've learned at the skate park so far is that things have really changed very quickly since it's been completed. We realize now we have to have some cameras, for example, which we didn't anticipate. We've had issues with graffiti, so maybe we have to look at some sort of art project to have professional graffiti put on there. There's lots of things that are evolving. So what I'm suggesting is that let's go ahead with the cameras. Let's go ahead with either the shade, the shade sale that Jared talked about, or trees or whatever. But the remaining $7,000, I think either Councillor Oster's idea of dedicating it to a future project, or maybe we leave it as a skate park legacy fund, have that money there so that unanticipated costs that might arise over the next 2 or 3 years could be met with this reserve money. So say we decide to do some sort of expansion or some sort of art project or something to enhance the skate park, let's leave that money there for the skate park. And that way, if we need something that we can't even imagine, we never imagined cameras 2 years ago. Now we're looking at cameras. So maybe that money should stay, I'm proposing, as a legacy fund, leave it there for the skate park, and then we've got the money.
That's a really good suggestion, Councillor Roman, especially if maintenance things come up and other expenditures that we can, or we want more benches, or something that's on it breaks. I think that's a really good idea. Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. The MOU states that it's actually the township's decision what we end up doing with that money. And I like the idea of it being put to use right away on a recreational project, which the MOU says we can do. So staff have suggested here that it be used towards a project that has been approved for next year, which is a 2022 basketball multi-purpose court. But I would also say that I do like Councillor Roloman's suggestion that the money be set aside to be used for future improvements or maintenance that may be necessary for the skate park. So I'm not in favor of it being set aside for a long period of time for a future project, which we don't have approved at this point. I would like to see that money put to work right away, or remain set aside for the skate park, which we've got operating right now and will probably require some sort of maintenance as time goes on.
Thank you. Jared, council talks after the public has had their say, so then we create a resolution going forward. I will give you about 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Just to speak to the point of spending the money now versus later, if we didn't have the leisure services master plan, I believe the skate park project would potentially be approved and being in the fundraising state right now. All I'm asking is these funds be set aside until that decision is made. If there is no pump track, if it gets squashed, then have your way with it. Spend the money however. I'm just asking that since it's our committee that fundraised this, hold it for our committee. We can make the decision when the project gets approved or not. And if it's 6 months, if it's 8 months, if it's a year, hold the money for that period of time. That's it.
Okay, Councillor Rowland and Councillor Osner, you both talked about putting the money. Councillor Osner, do you sort of agree with the 7,000 put aside for the skateboard park and future needs it may have?
Yeah, I have no problem for that, with that. However, I thought that if it was just simply put into the recreation fund, that money is accounted for. And it's no different than naming a legacy fund. And that way, if that $7,000 for future councils or whatever, if that $7,000 becomes available, if you earmark it strictly for us as a skate park legacy fund, then that's all that money's going to sit there and be waiting to do. And maybe there'll be things to do, but maybe there won't. But there may be $7,000 that could be used for potentially a pump track or something down the line. I just don't think we need to spend it right now just because it's there. I mean, we can step back, and as Jared had mentioned, we don't have our leisure plan done yet. Let's get that done, and maybe there's something in there. But
Okay.
I'm okay either way, whatever council decides.
Well, let's look at the options then. Can we word it so that the $7,000 be put aside and it have three options? One is for maintenance upkeep of the skateboard park. Two is that it be put aside for the pump track, should that be an item that is chosen by our leisure master plan. And if neither of that is necessary, then the third option is to leave it in the recreation funds for recreation program. Does that seem fair? Does that cover all three? Or would you rather just do the two, maintenance of the park and recreation? Put it aside for recreation with the understanding that the leisure plan is being, the recreation leisure plan is being dealt with, and that $7,000 could possibly be used in anything that is designated there. Councilor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor Fossing. This is being made far too complicated. I suggest that we just accept the staff report as filed and use the money next year to build the basketball court.
Any other comments from council? Councilor Rowland.
I would like to see us put forward that the money be spent on the landscaping or shade protection on the cameras, and then the balance be put into a legacy fund for future expenses at the skate park.
Okay, so I'm going to have the clerk read out the first motion. We'll see where it lies, and then we can, how do we want to handle this? Do you want to, then we will address the second motion should the first fail? CEO McNeely, any comments?
So Madam Mayor, you do have a resolution in front of you. So if council defeats that, then a new motion would be introduced. And whatever council then frames for it as it relates to the unspent monies that have been received and or new contributions that may be received in 2021. And the only reason why I flagged that is because we have a historic resolution going back 2 or 3 months ago that said any monies received during 2021 would be put into that account.
Okay, can I have the resolution, please, Ms. Sage?
So moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that report number FIN-2024-2021 be received, and that staff be authorized to withdraw funds from the skate park reserve for the purpose of acquiring solar cameras to complete the outdoor portion of the security camera project at an estimated cost of $3,000, and that staff be directed to use any additional remaining funds in the skate park reserve for the basketball / multi-purpose court construction at the North Dumfries Community Complex in 2022. Councillor Rowland?
Not in favor.
Councillor Osner?
No.
Councillor McCreary?
In favor.
Councillor Gillespie?
In favor?
And Mayor Foxton?
Opposed?
So that is lost.
Can I suggest the first paragraph stay with regards to the cameras? I thought we had in here the trees. It's not in here as well then? The trees and shade. CEO McNeely?
So Madam Mayor, the last report the council dealt with 2 or 3 months ago authorized the purchase of trees with the funds that were available at that point in time. That resolution still stands unless council, as part of decision-making tonight, alters that, that resolution and redirects how those funds that were set aside for trees is to be utilized.
Councillor Rossner?
Thank you. So yeah, I'd like to bring that motion forward that we investigate how much the shade structures will be. And if it exceeds the amount of the tree planting, we can see how much it exceeds the amount, and that might be something we take part of the $7,000 from. So if the shade structures cost $5,000, then we'll take the $2,000 from the $7,000, so that we're not trying to fund the extra money from something else. It'll be funded from the excess funds of the $7,000.
So if I understand correctly, we would stay with the first amount for the cameras. The second part on the new resolution would state that we look into not only trees, but the shade protection. And should the shade protection be costlier than what we have budgeted for the trees, that the $7,000 be towards that. And then any residual will go into the recreation fund for the use of master plan recreational items. Is that agreeable? Councillor Rowland, do you have any thoughts?
I still like to see the residual go to a legacy for the skate park, but it's up to council, I guess.
And I'm not uncomfortable with that.
I'm okay with that too.
So Ms. Sage, do you have that resolution?
Sorry, if you could repeat that last portion.
Okay, so the first part was what you've already got in paragraph 1. The second part is that the
That
tree,
any residual funds we put into recreation.
no, the second part will be the trees. We will be looking at also shade covers to funding for shade covers and possibly trees if they're kept at a good distance from the park, that it won't get into the park. And residual funds will go into a fund to help maintain and take care of the skateboard park. Can you read that back to us, please, Ms. Sage?
Certainly. So that staff be authorized to withdraw funds from the skate park reserve for the purpose of acquiring solar cameras to complete the outdoor portion of the security camera project at an estimated cost of $3,000. And that staff be directed to investigate how much shade structures will be, and if exceeds costs of the tree planting funds, then to allocate a portion of $7,000 to fund this, and that any residual funds be put towards maintaining the skateboard park.
May I have a move and a second? Councillor Rowland, may I have you move it? Councillor Osner second. Thank you. And call the vote, please, Ms. Sage.
Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Osner,
In favor.
Councillor McCurry,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
In favor.
That carries.
Thank you, everyone. And next we have the report of the appointment of the external auditor services for a 2-year extension for BDO LLP. Is there anyone speaking on this? No? Okay, then any questions or comments, councilors? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please?
So moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that report number FIN-25-2021 be received, and that bylaw number 3275-21 being a bylaw to appoint the firm BDO LLP as the external auditors for the township for the year ended December 31st, 2021 and December 31st, 2022 be enacted. Councillor Rowland,
In favor?
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And the appointment of the external auditors for the service of 2 years. Any questions or comments on that one? No, we did that. That's right. We're looking at the financial report to be received, FIN number 27-2021. Any questions or comments? For the financial report, then can I have the motion, please?
It's moved by Councillor Ossner, seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that report FIN-27-2021 be received. Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Next, we'll move on to developmental services and function areas. Would anyone like to pull any items on 5.1, 5.2? The condo application and condominium application. Seeing no one's hand up, Councillor Gillespie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just a little confused on 5.1. Like those 2 units are already up. Why is this? Why are we approving that now? Because they're already up. And are they condos or are they apartments?
CEO McNeely?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Gillespie, the condominium apartments. So what it does allow is for the owner to create individual ownership of each of the apartment units going forward. It is not uncommon once a building is constructed, because you actually survey the space, and in this case, it could be on a 2nd or 3rd floor, and that becomes part of the registrable description of the future condominium corporation. The actual process is to give a legal description for each unit, identify those areas that are common to the building, like hallways and courtyards and the landscaped areas in the parking lot, and to assign responsibilities between the future owners and the condominium corporation.
If I may, Councillor Gillespie, on the Butte Street apartments, there are several individuals that have bought 2 units. One they rent out as an apartment and the other they live in. Councillor Ossner. Oh, no?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just a very quick question. CEO McNeely, is that the same reason why we're seeing the 88 Gibson one?
So the 88 Gibson property has always been known to be a freehold condominium site, and that's the way it was introduced at the outset. It's the same process that we're following for the 2 apartment buildings on Northumberland Street, but they actually marketed from day one that it would be set up as a freehold condominium.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one other question. Do the people that rent these apartments now, do they have a choice in whether, you know, the guy comes along and says, okay, now this is going to be a condominium? Do they have any choice in that matter? And are there any affordable units in any of these buildings?
So yes, the individuals themselves have certain rights under provincial legislation as it relates to a tenant in a building.
And affordability, Councillor Gillespie, I don't think very much is affordable today in the region. I think the rents are around $2,000 a month, CEO McNeely?
Madam Mayor, the rents are varied across that building depending upon the unit size. And I do know that the uptake in terms of people signing leases was quite significant and happened over a very short period of time. So I guess in that respect, location, attributes of the building and the marketplace was the combination was very attractive, and the units were in both buildings. There were 31 units per building, were leased out very quickly.
Councillor Ossner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one more quick question. So this in no way is a levy or tax evasion of any sort, from building a place and calling it a rental unit and then a year later switching around calling it I'm selling condos now?
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Ossner, no, that is not the case. There are apartment buildings that are sent as rent geared to income, and we actually sign contracts with those property owners because there is some sort of government transfer to create the subsidized units. That is not the case here. And as such, there is no tax evasion or equivalent maneuvering. This is strictly a transactional item on a 31 unit building.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
So I see no other questions. You do not have to read it in its entirety, Ms. Sage. So can you do the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Ossner that PD report number 50-2021 be received, and that's as presented in the staff report. Councillor Rollman,
In favor?
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
Okay, and did we do both in once, like 5.1 and 5.2, Ms. Sage?
We've broken them out into two separate motions.
Okay, so we're at 5.2 then now, please? Are we at 5.1?
Yes, 5.2.
Okay, did I see a hand up? No, okay, go ahead, please.
So moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that PD report number 51-2021 be received, and with Mayor Foxton's permission as presented in the staff report. Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
Now we will move on to community services and function areas. 6.1 to 6.5. Is there any questions on any of those items? Anybody want to pull any of those? Okay, I have CAO McNeely first, and then Councillor Ossner.
Madam Mayor, with council's indulgence, Mr. Todd Brown from Monteith Brown is present, and he wishes to provide a summary overview of our present status as it relates to the Leisure Services Master Plan. And then there's a companion staff report for that. So if council would be inclined, can we pull that report so that it can be dealt with by the committee as a separate item?
Yes, we can. Councillor Ossner, which one did you want to pull?
The 6.5 Rogers Hometown Hockey event.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, if you'd like to go ahead.
Great, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And I just wanted to provide a brief PowerPoint presentation. So I'm just going to pull that up here. Here we go. So thank you, Mayor, members of council, and staff and the public that are watching tonight. As you may be aware, we've initiated the Leisure Services Master Plan. It's really just getting going. We met with your steering committee on August 26th, and really it was an opportunity to understand some of the key issues that you're facing as a community and to review the study process over the next number of months. As an overview, our firm is a leader in parks, recreation, and culture planning, as well as land use planning. We're established in 1977 and have over 40 years of experience in leisure planning. In the last 5 years, we've completed over 50 recreation and parks and culture related studies and have familiarity with your community through the ARENA strategy. Joining us is Tucker Reed and Associates. Claire Tucker Reed is the principal of the firm. They provide strategic operational planning, municipal planning in terms of programming and service delivery, organizational effectiveness and policy development, with a great focus on recreation, parks, sports, and culture. We collaborate with that firm on a regular basis, and we anticipate preparing a document that will be realistic and achievable and responds to the needs of your community as we move forward. The purpose of the Leisure Services Master Plan is really to guide decision-making for council, staff, and the community in terms of needs and priorities for recreational cultural opportunities, as well as parks and trails over the next 10 years. In terms of what is in scope, indoor recreation and cultural facilities such as community centers, arenas, aquatics, performing arts theaters, and galleries. Outdoor recreation facilities such as sports fields, hard surface courts, playgrounds, splash pads, special events, and emerging activities. Parks, open space, and trails, and on the service delivery side, the programming and services and how they're delivered to the community. In terms of the overall process, the background research is currently underway. So at our August 26th meeting, we identified a number of background documents that we would like to get from the municipality. We've also been able to obtain a number of those through your website. So over the next month, we'll be undertaking that background research and assessing that data, as well as beginning a public consultation process that will take place over the September to October timeframe. Based on all of that information, it will really provide the foundation for our needs assessments and preparing the draft master plan over the November to January of next year timeframe. With the draft plan, we will then test it with your community, your stakeholders, and yourselves, and then finalize the document for your consideration in March of 2022. Just wanted to provide a brief overview of the consultation process. There will be a lot of public awareness, including use of your website to advertise and promote the project. We'll have a virtual public information session, which essentially will run over a 2 or 3 week timeframe to let people become aware of the project and how they might get involved. There'll be an online community survey. We intend to interview each member of council as well as key staff as part of the process. So as much as tonight is an opportunity to introduce you to us, we will have a sit down with each of you as well. Staff workshops will be conducted to understand staff's perspective, as well as stakeholder focus groups. And we've identified 4 sessions with focus groups with those stakeholders. And then once the plan is drafted, we'll present that to the public and to council for consideration. All the way along through the process, there'll be ongoing steering committee meetings to make sure that we have the information that we need to test our thoughts and ideas, and also for the committee to review any information that we prepare and give their comments and feedback. And with that, I certainly am available right now to answer any questions or take down any comments that council may have tonight. And I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Ms. Sage?
Certainly. So moved by Councillor Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Ostner, that council receives a presentation from Todd Brown representing Monteith Brown with thanks, and that council receive rec report number 21-2021 for the purposes of information and update on the status of the Leisure Services Master Plan project. Councillor Rollman?
In favor.
Councillor Ostner?
In favor.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Are there any questions in regards to the Community Building Fund grant opportunity? Seeing none, can I have that resolution, please, Ms. Sage?
So moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by Councillor Ossner, that rec report number 22-2021 be received, and that council authorize staff to make an application with the Ontario Trillium Foundation Community Building Fund grant for the purchase and installation of an elevator for the Air Community Centre, and that the 2022 capital budget allocation in the amount of $250,000 be established as a pre-approval, subject to securing the Ontario Trillium Foundation Community Building Fund grant. Councillor Williman,
Yes.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Next, we'll have the reshingle salt dome at 1168 Greenfield Road, please. Am I in the wrong one? No, I'm at winter maintenance, 5-year contract, please.
Moved by Councillor Ossner, seconded by Councillor Rolliman, that PW report number 16-2021 be received, and that council approve the award of contract ND-RFT-40-2021 for Part A and Part B winter maintenance of municipal sidewalks, snow plowing, and sanding salting services for road and parking lots, including operators for the 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025, and the 2025 and the 2026 winter control season to green haze, landscape, and snow removal, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate the completion of this award. Councillor Roman,
I'm sorry, what years was that again? 2020? No, I'm in favor.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
Now we have the reshingle of the salt dome, 1168 Greenfield Road. Any questions before we go to that resolution? No. Go ahead, Ms. Sage.
So moved by Councillor McCreary, seconded by Councillor Rolliman, that PW report number 17-2021 be received, and that council approve the award of contract ND-RFQ-02-2021 to reshingles the salt dome located at 1168 Greenfield Road to Brecam Roofing Incorporated in the amount of $34,000 plus HST, and that the treasurer be authorized to fund the variance of $4,000 plus net HST from the Public Works Facilities Reserve to fund the project, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate the completion of this award. Councillor Rolliman,
In favor.
Councillor Ossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And now, Councillor Ossner, questions about Rogers Hometown Hockey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Reading over this, I have a little bit of a concern, and the concern is with the obviously the Delta variant and what is happening now with COVID and the uncertainty, and with the vaccine passport and all the above. I'm actually kind of surprised that Rogers wants to move ahead with this, because as they say in the report, it brings about 11,000 people to your town. They say they're going to do digital ticketing, but who's going to enforce it? Who's going to be standing at the road looking for these digital tickets to make sure that we know who's coming into town? And how are we going to social distance with that many people in town? And with the events that they have scheduled, looking at this, I don't want North Dumfries to become the center of an outbreak. So I'm not really, I think it's a fantastic idea and I love to have it, but I don't want our minor hockey players and our centennials and our sportsmen's league and ice renters having to be shut down again and not be able to play hockey because we've hosted an event that included all these people. So I'm a little bit worried, and I'm not really sold on the fact that we're protecting our community right now.
CEO McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, Councillor Ossner. That was basically one of the first items we discussed when the proposal was first introduced to the township, was COVID, and how would we, at the festival, regulate thresholds, and then also public accessing the festival space. So there has been, or there is being developed, a QR code, and people would self-register for a time slot to be permitted within the festival grounds. The entire perimeter of the festival in the NDCC parking lot will be fenced, and there'll be an entrance and there'll be an exit point. At the entrance point, there will be security, and people will have to present their QR code on their smartphone, and it will be then verified at that point. If it has effectively a check mark, then you are able to enter because you've been approved for that time slot. The actual number of people in the festival area is still being worked out so that we can ensure a permissive critical mass that doesn't overwhelm that footprint. And that will determine how many people can register for the various time slots between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. on the Saturday and the Sunday festival period.
Councillor Ossner.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. What about the events, including the music that's going to happen at the pavilion, et cetera, where we can only have 100 people down there? And what about the parade? How are we going to monitor those people outside of the NDCC?
So similar that what is being proposed is the teams will be kept in their cohorts. The teams will be spatially separated as they march onto the scene. And really it's no different than them being in the rink, in their locker rooms, or on the ice. The biggest difference is they will be outside. The entire parade, as well as the viewing for the game, is in an outside condition. So it's a matter of those coaches or managers for the respective teams monitoring the activity of the kids under their tutelage as they march toward up Sangster's Lane and to the viewing area next to the TV studio.
Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was a little concerned that it's such a short turnaround time. Is it always like this when they do these things? And do we have staff time available to put this all together? I'm kind of concerned about that. I'm also concerned how it's going to affect the leisure plan, that now we're doing hockey, we're going to look like a hockey town when we're kind of trying to not really say that out loud too much until we get the plan made. So it's a little concerning, and the COVID thing is definitely concerning for me. I have no idea how that's all going to work.
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Gillespie, yes, it is a very, very short period of time for turnaround. We've acknowledged that from the outset when Rogers first made the approach. And we've had to double up on some staff to dedicate time to pull this together.
Councillor Ossner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not concerned about our image, because I think that this is a special event, and it's nice to show that we are a hockey town. We're not just a hockey town, but it is nice to show that you know, we're Canadian, and in Canada, you know, every town loves to be the hockey town. Doesn't mean you're just a hockey town. Like, we don't have to be just a hockey town, but this is an opportunity. I like the opportunity. I'm just nervous about people coming from all over, outside of our community coming in. I did read that they said that everybody has to wear a mask, so that's comforting. So I'm not worried about our staff, because I would think that our staff would be pretty excited about something like this, because that puts us, our staff, and our whole township and everything on the map and gives us exposure. So I think if anybody's staff can pull it off, ours can. So I think that all the boxes are checked for that. I just wanted to bring up my concerns about safety. And I really hope that it's going to be monitored and abided by, because I know I've been to stores, I've been to certain building lumber stores, I won't name, and there are people that are walking through proving a point and they don't have their mask on and they're causing this. And I know it's only one out of 100 or 200 people, but it's still disturbing when it happens. And, whether you believe in it or not, I mean, you need to respect the other people around you. So I hope that I hope that we can really keep a good rein on this, because as I said, I don't want to be known as North Dumfries Township, Rogers hockey hometown, and also COVID Central.
Thank you, Councillor Ossner, and you've made really good points. I just wanted to let you all know that Karen Winters is going to be heading this up with CAO McNeely. She has done it before. With Brantford. I will bow to Councillor Williman and I'll speak later. Councillor Williman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had one quick question. Is this permitted under our state of emergency? Do we have to come out of state of emergency in order to do this, or how does that work? I'm just curious about that whole, maybe the fire chief, the CEO can answer that one.
No, there's nothing in the state of emergency that would prevent council from hosting this event. That said, regardless of whether we have a state of emergency or not, we are obligated to follow the rules of stage 3 of the province's reopening. And as such, we will be working in concert with public health as it relates to how to promote critical mass, spatial separation, and enforcement of the various requirements for gathering for an organized event.
Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton. I mean, I agree with the concerns that have been expressed about COVID and an event like this. However, as long as council has assurances that the event will follow all the protocols that the province is requiring us to follow, then I would be in favor of it. But I just want to make sure that we do exactly what the province is requiring us to do at this stage in the game. The COVID game, not the hockey game.
Good point. All of the above, right?
Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor McCreary, yes, we will be following the province's stage 3 reopening protocols in consultation with public health. Those are the programs and protocols we will be following. It does require the cooperation of the attendees to respect those rules and to follow them accordingly.
You know, what's interesting, CAO McNeely, is that September 22nd, you will have to download that app once they get it ready to show that you've been double vaccinated. Be interesting to see if they demand that for the.
That is for indoor recreation facility. This is all outdoor. So the passport scenario would not apply because it's an outdoor venue.
Okay. And Councillor Ossner, you talked about the non-mask, and I got a report the other day that there's some parents walking to and from the school and they will not mask. And they walk through the school just to show their defiance. You find them everywhere, don't you? Any other questions? Seeing none, Ms. Sage, you do not have to read it in its entirety.
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Ossner that Rec Report number 23-2021 be received, and that's as presented in the staff report. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Oster?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. Next, we'll go on to governments and protected services functions area. Any councillor wants to pull? I have Councillor Ossner and then Councillor Rollman. Councillor Ossner.
I just had a quick question on report CLK 15-2021, the Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan.
Mhm. Do you want to touch base on it right now? If it's just a
Sure.
question?
So just it's just a very quick question. So this action plan was created with all the municipalities and the cities combined together? Are we all abiding by the same plan, or does everybody have their own plan?
CO McNeely?
So Madam Mayor, I'm going to defer to Michelle Poisson. Michelle has been the township's representative on the working group, and she can provide you with a little bit more context. But as a general statement, the principles across the 7 area municipalities in the region are consistent. However, some municipalities have slight variations in terms of programs that they're offering based on the types of facilities or features that they have within their respective communities.
Michelle, please.
Yes, so the region of Waterloo and the area municipalities have been working together since August 2020 to coordinate efforts to support Indigenous-centered initiatives across Waterloo region. Are you, Councillor Osner, referring to September 30th about the fee waive?
No, just the whole report in general. I didn't know if this was, if each municipality was drafting their own separate action plan, or if we're all on board with the same template.
Yes, we're all on board together. Now we might, so with respect though to September 30th, we're all doing something slightly different about fee waiving, but sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I was going to say in some cities, Waterloo and Kitchener, I think, are allowing them waiving of fees at other times throughout the year.
Yes.
But the majority of us are doing this. This is the template, the baseline. Councillor Rowland, does that answer your questions, Councillor Austin?
For now, yeah, sure.
Councillor Rowland, what did you have a question on?
I had 2 questions on the 7.1 as well.
Okay, go ahead.
The first question is just a basic. I mentioned to the CAO earlier today on page 6 of the report that the mouth of the Grand River is actually at Lake Erie. It's not at Dundalk. So that's the one little mistake that's to be changed. The other thing, though, is on page 7 of the report, there's 2 different land acknowledgements. One is sort of short and one is quite long. And I thought that it'd be appropriate for the shorter one to be used at all of our meetings, and perhaps the longer one could just be used on our website. That's what I've noticed a lot of other municipalities are doing. They have the shorter version, which is the actual land acknowledgement, which is, I think, appropriate for meetings. And then they have the longer, which is more of a statement, which encompasses more than just land acknowledgement. As I noticed, it talks about other issues. That to me would be more appropriate to be posted on our website. And that way, I think people who want to know a bit more about what we're saying can go to the website and read that. But at the actual meeting, I think it's shorter and it's more easy for people to understand it in a shorter format. So that was my only comment.
CO McNeely, Michelle, what do you think? I tend to agree with Councillor Osner, Councillor Rowland.
Yep, and that's for council to decide which acknowledgement you would like. And with respect to the mouth of the river, that was a cut and paste from the region's website. So I've sent an email to my contact at the region about that. And I should have remembered grade 9 geography lesson about what a mouth of a river is. So my bad on that.
I don't remember grade 9. Any other questions or comments? So can we do a friendly amendment? It doesn't really state there in this. So this is just a note to staff that we would prefer to have the shorter acknowledgement at our meetings and the longer acknowledgements at possibly special events and on our website. Is that okay, Councillor Osner, Rowland? That takes care of it? And that's just a note to staff. That doesn't change the resolution at all. Is there any other comments on any of the governance and protective services? Then we will do the single motion that encompasses them all, Ms. Sage, and you do not have to read it all out.
Certainly. So moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that Committee of the Whole recommend the following items be approved as presented, as outlined in the staff reports listed in the Governance and Protective Services function area. So that's as presented for item 7.1, report number CLK-15-2021, Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan, as presented. 7.2, report number FIN-26-2021, the 2021 December Municipal Office Holiday Schedule, as presented. 7.3, report number FD-02-2021, donation of tactile support trailers, as presented. And 7.4, report number FD-03-2021, purchase of the fire chief command truck, as presented. Councillor Rollman.
Before I vote, though, I just wanted to say one quick thing I forgot. I wanted to say thanks to Michelle for bringing this forward. I think it's really great to have this in place. And I think council, we should really acknowledge the work that she did. So thanks, Michelle. We appreciate it. And I vote in favor.
Thank you.
Councillor Osner.
I'll echo that statement and vote in favor as well.
Councillor McCurry.
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton.
Yes, and thank you, Michelle. Good job. All right, so next, moving on. We are going to adjourn committee of the whole and go into council meeting. Is that correct, Ms. Sage?
That is correct.
Okay, so let's do that, please.
Moved by Councillor Rollman and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that committee of the whole is hereby adjourned and the council meeting be called back to order. Councillor Rollman.
In favor.
Councillor Osner.
Yes.
Councillor McCurry.
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
Okay, that carries.
thank you. And adoption of resolutions. You do not have to read this in its entirety. It's just adopting the resolutions that we passed tonight. So go ahead, Ms. Sage.
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that council adopt the recommendations as adopted and presented by committee of the whole dated September 13th, 2021. And that being report number PW-16-2021, request for tender, winter maintenance 5-year contract, that's as presented. Report number PW-17-2021, reshingling salt dome at 1168 Greenfield Road, as presented. Report number REC-2022-2021, community building fund grant opportunity, as presented. Report number REC-23-2021, Rogers Hometown Hockey Event, as presented. Report number CLK-15-2021, Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan, as presented. Report number FD-03-2021, purchase of the fire chief command truck, as presented. Councillor Rollman.
In favor.
Councillor Osner.
Yes.
Councillor McCurry.
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you.
I want to ride in the new truck, Rob.
And I believe we're doing first and second reading of the bylaws, please.
Moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that the following bylaws be taken as read a first and second time. Bylaw number 3273-21, being a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw to suspend the fees associated with the use of municipal spaces for Indigenous cultural and ceremonial events exclusively on September 30th every year. And bylaw number 3274-21, being a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw to include an Indigenous territory acknowledgement and moment of reflection at the beginning of all meetings of council and advisory committees.
We want to amend that. Do we?
No.
The moment of reflections is not going to be at all meetings. We're doing the Indigenous territory acknowledgement, correct?
The recommendation was to do the Indigenous territory acknowledgement and then follow it with a moment of reflection.
Oh, I understand. Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
So Councillor Rollman.
I'm just reflecting for a second. Yes.
Councillor Osner.
Yes.
Councillor McCurry.
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
And can I have third reading of the bylaw, please?
Moved by Councillor Osner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that the following bylaws be taken as read a third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 3273-21, being a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw to suspend the fees associated with the use of municipal spaces for Indigenous cultural and ceremonial events exclusively on September 30th every year. And bylaw number 3274-21, being a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw to include an Indigenous territory acknowledgement and moment of reflection at the beginning of all meetings of council and advisory committees. Councillor Rowland,
In favor?
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton,
Yes.
and that carries.
And now we will move into close. Can I have the resolution, please? And then we will sign off and come back on by the link we have. Does everyone have the link? Okay, let's go, please.
That council move into a closed meeting session at 7:10 p.m. Under the Municipal Act, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection D, to discuss 1, report number CAO-25-2021, labor relations or employee negotiations, Municipal Act, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection D. Councillor Rowland,
Yes.
Councillor Osner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. I will see you all in a few minutes then.